Hi there, Kendra Tolbert here. I'm a registered dietitian and yoga teacher, and I specialize in women's health, PCOS, and fertility. And today, you and I are talking all things hair. We're talking all about PCOS related hair loss and hirsutism. So let's get right into it. When it comes to PCOS, hair is often a big topic, whether we're talking about hair loss or hair growth. It's something that drives a lot of people to look for solutions. It's often the thing that actually gets people in the door to see their provider to figure out what is going on with their hormones, what is going on with their health. And that makes a lot of sense because it's external, it's physical, it's something that we can see. It makes a lot of sense that this gets a lot of attention. And I hope that the answers that I provide today give you a jumping off point so that you can start to have conversations with your healthcare team to get to the root cause of what you are experiencing and to find solutions that fit and work for you. So the very first question that we're going to cover is, what is hirsutism? So you've probably heard the term. You may have heard it pronounced differently. That's how I pronounce it. It is excessive hair growth. Now, it can be excessive hair growth on the face or on the body. And there is actually a way to objectively determine what degree of hirsutism you are experiencing. Because we live in a world that tends to tell women that they should be hairless except on their scalp, we often think that any hair is too much hair. And so this tool, which is in the blog post, so make sure that you check out the blog post that I've linked below, actually allows your healthcare team to determine if it's a clinical condition or if it's more of an aesthetic condition that you may be thinking is a problem, but maybe isn't a problem. Because there's genetic differences, there are ethnic differences in how hair growth tends to present, but hirsutism is excessive hair growth, and it can be quantified using a tool. Yes, when I say tool, I don't mean like it's like something they like rub over your skin to count the hairs or see how thick they are. No, it's like a score that they give based on hair growth in different areas of your body. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What is female pattern hair loss related to PCOS? Now, you may have picked up on the fact that I called it female pattern hair loss and not male pattern balding or androgenic alopecia, which sometimes those are the terms that you'll see people or you'll hear people use when they're talking about PCOS related hair loss or thinning. Those aren't the best terms to use because usually the hair loss that people experience when they have PCOS actually results in their hairline remaining intact, which is not what we see in male pattern balding. And typically it's thinning along here, and then maybe it starts to kind of like diffuse out and it becomes thinner and thinner. But again, the hairline remains intact. And that's known as female pattern hair loss. So that is different than male pattern balding. Third question, what causes the hair growth and hair loss that people with PCOS often experience? Both of these are generally driven by high androgens. Now, high androgens are the male hormones. We all have them, but we call them male hormones because they tend to be higher in those who were born male. And they tend to be responsible, or they are responsible for a lot of the physical characteristics that we often associate with men. But they're not the only cause. They're just one of the causes. It's even possible to have normal androgen levels and still have hair loss and have hair growth with PCOS. And a part of that is because there is individual differences in sensitivity levels. Some people's hair follicles are just more sensitive to any androgens, so they may have the same symptoms as someone with high androgens, even if they have normal levels. So that's also something to consider. Beyond that, though, there are other reasons, right? So there can be other underlying conditions that could be contributing to your symptoms. There can be thyroid conditions. You could be taking other medications that actually can cause some of those symptoms. Nutrient deficiencies, not eating enough, excessive stress, inflammation, all of these things can also contribute to these two symptoms. And that's why it's so important to have a conversation with your healthcare team so that you know what is going on with your body, not what's going on with everyone on the internet's body, but your body. That way you know, is it thyroid that's really behind it, or a thyroid condition that's really behind it, or at least exacerbating what you're experiencing along with the PCOS? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Can that be addressed? All of these things need to be ruled out. They need to be addressed. They need to be just explored in order for you to know exactly how to improve your symptoms. Number 4, can PCOS, hair loss, and hirsutism be reversed? You've probably heard some mixed things, and there's actually really good news. You can absolutely improve both of these symptoms. It requires consistent treatment, it requires the right treatment, and it requires long-term treatment. And the sooner you can get treatment, the better your outcome is going to be. So I don't think you should waste a lot of time with massages and brushing your hair 100 times. There's a million and one reasons why that's probably not the best option, especially if you're experiencing hair loss. Trying all these like hair gummies and hair vitamins, hormone balancing supplements, all of those things, if you wait too long, are prolonging and keeping you away from the treatment that's actually going to have an effect. So to answer that question though, can it be reversed? Can absolutely be improved. But again, you have to keep doing the thing that improves it. So it's not like a cure. I think when we hear the word cure or even reversed, we're thinking, can I do this for a set amount of time? And then I never have to do these things again, and I never have these symptoms again. No, there's no cure for PCOS. There's no cure for these things. You usually have to continue to do whatever you did to get the change, you have to continue to do to keep the change. So just keep that in mind. So now that you know that you can improve both of these symptoms, you're probably wondering what sorts of things you can do. You're asking yourself, or maybe you're asking me, what can I do to improve hair loss and hair growth in PCOS? So there are 3 categories that we can focus our attention on in terms of treatment options. It depends on how you want to look at it. The last one I wouldn't necessarily think of as treatment as much as self-care. So that first category is medical treatment. The second category, cosmetic treatment. And then that third category is really like the self-care and lifestyle stuff that I tend to champion. But all of these can be used together. It definitely doesn't have to be an either or approach. I think often we think things have to be either or, but really often you can combine everything to support yourself in the best way possible, and you get to decide what that looks like. Okay, so off of that hobby horse and back onto, is it a hobby horse? You know what I'm trying to say. So there's medical treatment, and that would look like maybe pharmacological or pharmaceutical drugs. So that might be like spironolactone, which drives down androgens. It might be Rogaine, which you would apply to your scalp topically, which would actually help with the hair loss. It might look like birth control pills. It might look like even hair transplants. There are lots of different options. Cosmetically, which maybe hair transplants are more cosmetic, but it feels surgical. It's probably somewhere in between. Cosmetic, there is laser hair removal, there's waxing, there's shaving. When it comes to hair loss, there's using products that give the appearance of thicker hair. You'll always notice when you read those bottles, they say things like, will make your hair look thicker. They never say make your hair thicker, because they can't promise that. If you ever come across a bottle that promises to make your hair thicker, like, let me know, because I've never seen that. It's always very particular in how they use the language, and there's a reason for that. It might also be getting haircuts that make your hair look thinner, that maybe cover up some of the thinning spots. It might be using hair dyes. It might be wigs, weaves, extensions of any sort. There are lots of different ways to, help yourself feel better in the meantime as well. And then the third piece, the self-care piece. There's a lot that we can do here. And so let's go ahead and dive into that now. The first thing, and I've said this a million times in this video, and I'm going to say it again, talk to your healthcare team. Make sure that you know if there are any other underlying causes behind what you're experiencing. PCOS isn't all that you are. It might be behind many of your symptoms, but that doesn't mean that there are not other things that you should be exploring. So that can be taking a look at inflammation levels. That can be taking a look at thyroid levels, thyroid hormone levels. That can be checking to see if there are autoimmune conditions that could be going on. It could be nutrient deficiencies. We know that low iron can cause hair to fall. So these are all things that you want to be having a conversation with your healthcare team about so they can do the necessary labs to figure out what else might be going on as well, if anything. It never hurts to rule things out. Never hurts. Number 2, improve your insulin sensitivity. Now, if you've been on my channel at all, you've probably come across some information about blood sugar balance and insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance is behind so many of the symptoms that people with PCOS experience. And so this is where I tend to focus a lot of my attention with my clients and a lot of my attention when I'm sharing information here or on Instagram or anywhere else or on my blog. And that's because we know that insulin resistance, when insulin gets really high or just high, it can cause the ovaries to overproduce androgens. We've talked about what high androgens do when it comes to hair growth and hair loss. So anything that you can do to improve your insulin sensitivity is actually going to also support your androgen levels. I'm not going to tell you all the different things that you can do to improve your insulin sensitivity here because I've already done a video on that. So definitely make sure that you check out that video. I will link to it in the description box below. The third thing, drive down inflammation. Whatever you can do to counter excess inflammation, because inflammation isn't inherently bad. It's actually something that our body uses in a lot of lovely ways to keep us healthy and safe. But when it's unchecked, when it's chronic, when it's just too much of it, that's when it can be a problem. So we want to do things that help our body have the right level of inflammation and at the right times, not just this constant state of like low grade or even large amounts of inflammation. That's not good for our health at all. So there are things that you can do like focus on sleep. Like spend time doing things that you enjoy, spend time with people that you enjoy being around, make sure that you're eating a good variety of foods, colorful fruits and vegetables, beans, peas, lentils, cold water fish, herbs, spices, teas, all of those things are going to give your body lots of anti-inflammatory properties in order to help your body have the proper amount of inflammation. You can also, of course, movement is really important, but not excessive movement. And then stress management. You always want to prioritize things like stress management. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of yoga for stress management. Definitely take a look around the channel and you'll find some videos that hopefully support you, whether you have PCOS or whether you're experiencing another hormonal challenge or trying to conceive. I have videos for all of the above. Number 4, make sure you're eating enough. I feel like I always find a way to include this in a video, and that's because too many people just aren't eating enough. They've been told that they need to focus in on eating less and exercising more in order to improve their health. And no, you need enough food. If we had a plant, let's go with an analogy. If we had a plant that was sick in any way, we likely wouldn't starve the plant to improve its health. What do you think would happen if we didn't give the plant the sun, the water, the soil, and the fertilizer it needed? Think about it. It wouldn't have the resources that it needs to repair itself. It wouldn't have the resources that it needs to continue to grow and flourish. So why do we have this idea that the way to improve the health of a human is to deprive them if we know that deprivation doesn't equal health in any other organism? I think it's something that we need to start thinking about. But beyond that, because we can talk about that all day. So it's really important that you are making sure that you are eating enough so that your body can also prioritize the extras. Last but not least, explore supplements, herbs, and teas wisely. I say wisely because there are so many gimmicky products out there, so many hormone balancing supplements. Which hormones? That's always my question, right? Like which ones? We have a lot of them. Which ones are you balancing and how? I don't know. There are lots of like hair gummies and hair vitamins, and all of those things don't really address your uniqueness. So you want to make sure that you know what your body needs. There are some that generally most people can benefit from. So things like a multivitamin or a prenatal are going to fill in some nutrient gaps in a way that we're usually not too concerned about because they tend not to be filled with really high doses of anything to the point that they're completely imbalanced. So a good quality prenatal or a good quality multivitamin, those can be great things to add in. What else would I say? I would definitely say spearmint tea, especially if you know you have high androgen levels, because we do have research to support the use of spearmint tea and green tea to drive down androgens, and then green tea, and of course spearmint tea as well. They have the added benefits of providing anti-inflammatories and antioxidants, so wonderful there. And then the other one that I would say would be possibly inositol. So I'm a really big fan of inositol. I have an entire video on that. I'll make sure to link to that below as well. It's one of my favorite supplements to use with people with PCOS. So take a look at that video and then go have a conversation with your healthcare team so that they can help you decide which dose and which type would be the most appropriate for you. All right, so there you have it. I hope that this video provided you with the information that you need to go and have some conversations with your healthcare team and to explore what might be the right course of action for you. I will see you next week. I hope that you are having a lovely day, and I hope that it continues to be lovely. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be well, and bye for now.